So our next presenter is going to be Elaine Hayes. And Elaine was actually here on our first ever PolyMAT Presents. She was one of our presenters then, and she's come back again. We're delighted she's come back again to talk to us a bit more about hybrid teaching and learning. And if you've not come across Elaine on Twitter, I think she's been, one of the heroes of lockdown in some ways, because there's lots of teachers who've struggled with remote learning and really trying to understand how to use different tools. And Elaine has got so many sort of blogs and tips and things out there. I can't remember, I'm sure Elaine will tell us. She's got loads of things published in the TES, loads of resources that you can get from the TES for her as well. I'm sure she'll mention that. But there's so much out there that she's done. And I think definitely, if you haven't heard of Elaine, you should check her out, follow her on Twitter, and keep up to date with all the good things that she's doing. So I'm going to hand over to you, Elaine, and if you'd like to share your screen.
Thank you very much for that wonderful intro, Mark. Great to be back. Thank you for having me back again. And this time slightly different. So I'm just going to share my screen. At this stage, I should be very used to it. Here we go. So, yeah, as Mark said, I've been fairly active on Twitter and things like that. And for me, it's very much about just sharing the knowledge. There's no point in having it and doing things, because when we look back, it was this day to a year that everything kind of kicked off with everything we were doing right now. So what I've looked at today is back to the classroom, kind of what next, looking at kind of what what I think we can keep and improve on. So it's definitely a time for review. We're 12 months on. There's been a huge upskilling of staff in 12 months. I don't think anybody this day last year, when the announcement was made, I think it was 5 o'clock, 5:15 this day last year, where the announcement was made to say that we're shutting schools. I don't think anybody would have thought what has happened and a massive upskilling that we've had. That being said, one of the things that I would have a fear about is this assumption that we know how to do it. Our students know how to do it. And one of the things I would look to keep is that implicit instruction of how to use Teams, how to use email. We assume students are so technology driven, they all have devices at home. We assume they can do these things, but we still have to keep that implicit instruction of this material. So I want to have a look at kind of what we want to keep in the short term and long term, kind of what projects can we do from this, and what do we need to develop even further. I think definitely looking back, we wouldn't have said that we would be teaching these live lessons, we would go to complete remote learning, we'd now go to hybrid learning where we've got students in classrooms, students at home learning the exact same thing. I think the boundaries with this are now endless, and this has really shown that as a teaching profession, we're so adaptable, so able to kind of roll with the punches, for want of a better word, and being able to still deliver fantastic quality teaching. Because for me, and this is a quote that we've been on a number of training sessions within our MAT, and one of the quotes that's kind of come up is that great teaching is great teaching no matter what. So no matter how we're delivering it, we're just adapting how we deliver it. So this is one that I saw on Twitter. It's from Patrick O'Connor. He's a head teacher, and he's been a head teacher for 17 years. And I thought this was a fantastic way of reviewing things. So you look, it's Kiss the Swan, which I think is a fantastic way of kind of thinking about it. So keep, improve, stop, start. What are we looking at in terms of technology? And to figure out what we're going to keep, what we're going to improve, what we're going to stop, what we're going to start, we look at the strengths, the weaknesses, and the possible next steps from it. So for me, I've done a lot of work in terms of Microsoft. So I'm a Microsoft Innovator Educator, I'm a Microsoft Certified Educator, but I've also been looking at a lot of Google products just because I can. All of the professional development that's out there to be able to enhance your own knowledge of these products, a lot of it's free. A lot of it you can just log on and do the courses at your own pace and help you to improve your teaching pedagogy in terms of a hybrid or a remote class delivery structure. So I'm looking at kind of Teams and Google Classroom, Stream and YouTube, Forms, and my now personal favorite app, OneNote. It's always been one that I've loved, but I think there's the potential that we have there now that we're back in the classroom, how we can use it even better. So starting with Teams and Google Classroom, obviously we're still at a point where we are now hybrid teaching. In my school, we've got a number of students who are absent. They were away, they've come back, they're now isolating. We have a number of students who are shielding from medical issues, and we're still at that hybrid teaching. And hybrid teaching is where you're delivering the same lesson to the people in this classroom, the bricks and mortar classroom, and the students who are at home in that digital and virtual classroom. And for us, it's very much keeping that quality the same. The pace can be different to your normal teaching classroom. Even the issues of having to start a live meeting, making sure that student is engaging, and how you do that, how you make ensure that all of your students are learning. And for us, we've done a very structured kind of first 5 minute start and last 5 minute start that our teaching and learning lead has put in place, and that's worked really, really well. It's given a really good structure in terms of, right, this is the first thing you need to do. You need to do your register. You need to step by step by step. I think that's always huge, where you've got this really concrete step by step. I think for me, with Teams and Google Classroom, that communication platform, including homework, we actually as a school don't have school emails, so our students don't have access to their school emails. They've disabled the Outlook app. So for us, we use that as a communication platform and a homework platform. I think one of the things that we definitely look at developing is using that and being able to communicate with parents, and where students have this digital calendar and being able to really get themselves organised. With both Teams and Google Classroom, you're able to log in, you're able to see it straight away, and it's kind of helping them develop in a world where this is what it is at the moment. If you look at any big companies, everything is being done online. It's digital diaries, and it's helping students to understand how to do that in a setting, in an educational setting. Resource sharing for us, that's huge. I think we're now starting to see possibly the end of VPNs. We're trying to log onto a VPN in school to get things, whereas we can now share things digitally using Teams, using Classroom, using Google Drive, using OneDrive, and that's huge. It means everything's accessible anywhere, anytime. I think there's a huge power in that within a multi-academy trust, where you might have teachers of, we say, single teacher departments. So for example, with us, we have a single teacher teaching art across the entire school, teaching food and nutrition, and being able to create these cross-school hubs of resource sharing is very, very powerful for those type of departments. As well, sharing within faculties makes it a lot easier, rather than having to try and go through TES or go find good resources that that are quality. Being able to share within a department, it's as easy as drag and drop. If it's set up with the files, your staff are just dragging it from one place to another. There, it's done, uploaded. No kind of fuss about it. And encouraging that within faculties, for NQTs, for RQTs who are just starting their teaching journey is huge. It's time consuming when you're trying to reinvent the wheel in terms of resource. And I think, a lot of schools would have had things on internal drives within schools. You have to be in school to be able to find, or a VPN, and this makes it a lot easier. And the final one of this is virtual intervention, which I know is one of the things that Mark has in the forms. I work in an all-girls Muslim school, Islamic faith ethos, and for us, we actually use Teams 2 years prior to anybody using it for kind of virtual intervention. Our girls had Eid, and the following day they had their maths paper 2. So for us to be able to communicate with them and kind of give them time to ask us questions, we ran a couple of virtual intervention sessions just to calm them down. They could have their questions answered. I think there's a power in this that is the potential, and change how we do intervention. But there's a kind of a caveat as well where there has to be a line drawn. I think it's one that's definitely one for further investigation and further looking at. The next one I'm looking at is Stream on YouTube, as well as Forms and Notebook. I've kind of bundled these together. I think we've done a huge amount. Every school has been creating videos, be it recording live lessons. Personally, I just record the instructional parts because I knew in my head I want to use them again. I want to set this instructional part so when we do assessments, all right, okay, girls, this is the piece, this is the video I need you to go and watch because this question was not great in the assessment. You need to watch it, and then the next part to that is the use of forms embedded within videos so that you're able to kind of make sure they're learning. And it's giving ownership to students, which is a huge thing for me personally. It's one of my values that I like, helping students to become real owners of their learning and understanding how to learn. I've put Stream, Nearpod and Spiral are 2 apps that are fantastic for formative assessment. If it's something that you say Google School, and you're like, oh, but I don't have Stream, I can't put forms in. Nearpod and Spiral will allow you to put those forms into YouTube video as well. And Nearpod was an app for me that I used all throughout. I do have a blog on my website, which I'll discuss about in a second. It was brilliant because you could see straight away if students were engaging or not. And then the use of forms as mini quizzes, I think that's one that there's been huge amounts of work. I've seen, I teach PE and maths, so my current role is acting head of PE. And using forms as mini quizzes has been fantastic. And there's a huge amount of sharing going on Twitter, on different places. For any maths teachers, there's a huge Padlet. I can't remember exactly who from, but I will find it and retweet it, where it's a number of different maths teachers across the country have created all these forms and put them all in one place. And that sharing has been absolutely time-saving for a lot of people. I'll link to my Twitter in a second, and I will find and retweet it. And the last one for me is OneNote. We're a 3-year Key Stage 4 school. I think what we tend to find is that depending on how you set up your Key Stage 4 and how your curriculum's set up, having a digital notebook using OneNote is a fantastic tool because students are able to go back straight away. They can go back at any time, anywhere. It's an app on their phone, it's an app on the iPad, it's on the computer. They can go back and see anything that they've done in the past. So what I've started doing is I've actually started teaching my lessons I have an iPad with an Apple Pencil, or if you have a Surface Pro, or if you just have a normal interactive whiteboard that you can write on, you can do this. I've started putting all of them, so creating each section and putting in each lesson, each thing that I'm sharing goes in there, be it PowerPoint, be it PDF, and anything that I write. I tend to quite like doing my examples in pen and going through things. And it means that it's there forever. So, you know, my year 9 students who are just starting out, they're able to go, you know, in 3 months' time, in 6 months' time, in 5 months' time, they can go back and look at see everything that was done. Submission of homework and marking, it's been a lifesaver in terms of I quite like marking with my pen. I can flick through it, see everything. I know this is going to be touched on later, but the use of immersive reader for any students that have literacy requirements, immersive reader is a game changer. I'm just conscious of time, so I'm going to pop on to the next one. I know immersive reader is going to be spoken about today. Since the last PolyMAT, and as Mark has mentioned before, I've done a lot of kind of writing of instructional guides. I've put them all on the website, which is EdTech in Action. So I created that just after Christmas. So anybody who's working in a Microsoft school, there's material on Teams and OneNote, I think at the moment, and then there's more to go on. But I'm also doing a lot of blogs using, we do a lot of work with Teach Like a Champion with Doug Lamov and Uncommon Schools. So I'm doing a lot of blogging around different techniques that they use and how they can be adapted in the hybrid classroom, how they can be tweaked slightly so that they fit the requirement for students in the bricks and mortar classroom and in the virtual classroom. My Twitter handle is there, and that's also the email address that if you want to get in contact or if you have any questions, just drop me an email at any stage. And that's me. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Elaine. That's brilliant. And again, as I said, there's always a bit of a delay on the feed, so it may be that questions take a little while to come through. I'm sure there will be questions. We actually did have a question that came in for Sarah. I think Sarah may be typing an answer to it. I don't know whether you're...
I mean, I can do it verbally, because I actually started...
Why not? Why not? Shall I put you back on the screen?
Started typing. I thought I was clicking enter to send. I actually clicked publish, so I published the question and lost my response. So whoever the anonymous question asker was, at the girls' school, we reduced workload considerably by having a whole class marking policy, which is we discourage any taking home of books. We do whole class and live marking within the class, within the lessons. So that way we considerably reduce the workload, because if anyone is an English teacher like myself, you'll know that taking home kind of piles of books to mark is, well, can be extremely heavy and time consuming. So we do that in the first instance. We also, on a Wednesday, we finish early. Well, the girls finish early, our pupils finish early. So lesson 6 on a Wednesday is used for CPD and department time. So rather than it being an after school activity, it's actually built into the school day. So that Wednesday we have CPD one week, and then the following week it'll be department time. So it's built into the school day, so they have more time, and it doesn't feel kind of so onerous on the already kind of quite time consuming teaching day. Further to that, with regards to the Growing Great Teachers project, there are twilight sessions built in throughout the academic year, already in the calendar. So they have kind of from 4 till 6, I think 4 times in the academic year, where it's specifically designed to be for research and working on their projects, meeting with line leads, going through what they're doing and working through that together. So the calendar is kind of built and constructed in such a way that is to be supportive and to allow staff to manage that workload. Ultimately, if we're not focusing on, we're ensuring staff feel confident with their development, but that it doesn't feel like it's just that add-on. I hope that's answered your question. If I haven't in any way, please do pop another message in, and I'd be happy to answer that for you. But thank you for asking. I understand completely. Workload and timing are probably 2 of the scariest words in the teaching profession. But thank you. I hope that answered it.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Well, now, Elaine, I know that you have to go at some point. I know we're sort of, I'm not sure how our schedule is doing at the moment, but I know that you've got to run at some point very soon. So just as soon as you need to, please do shoot off. And thank you so much again for joining us and for giving us your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me back. Yeah, I will be shooting off in about half an hour. We'll get kicked out of our school building.
Yeah, we know that well. We know that well. So we're going to keep moving on. We're still trying to get Ross in the room. We have got a backup plan if he doesn't manage to get into Teams. So we'll let you know about that if we need to use it. But we're still hoping to get him into here. But we're going to keep going through. So we've got another couple of graphs from the survey here, which will be good to get both Elaine and Sarah's feedback on. Possibly also bring Todd back in as well, and maybe also Colin, who is presenting later and we haven't seen yet, but I'm sure he would have something to say on some of these questions as well. So electronic homework setting, you can see a very high percentage given for that. Retain 81%. I think we should continue to set homework electronically. And then the other one is to do with virtual open evenings. So it's gone the other way on that one. 57% think let's go back to normal open evenings where all the parents and the kids come traipsing around the school, having a talk from the head in the hall, all that kind of stuff, rather than a video open evening. Who would like to start? Let's go to Elaine first on that.
I think for me, the electronic homework setting is an absolute. I need it. It keeps me organised, because if I'm able to kind of schedule the homework, and no matter what sort of platform you're using, be it Teams, Google Classroom, Show My Homework, it helps me being organised and being consistent with homework. And you're able to see kind of across the school how homework submission is going. If students are actually viewing it, then that communication with parents as well becomes, changes the dynamics slightly. I think it's definitely one that a lot of people will be keeping, and for good reasons. The virtual open evenings one, I think that's an interesting one. I can understand why 43% went retain. It can be easier doing virtual evenings, open evenings virtually. I'd probably split down the middle a little bit. I do think it depends on your school context. So if you're in a very kind of multicultural area where English is not a first language for a lot of parents, it would be, having a virtual one allows you to have access to the captions, to be able to change it, or even where you're doing it, where you pre-record and you put things on YouTube, and you can have or on stream, for example, where you have to change the language. I think that can be very, very powerful. But I know a lot of parents would prefer to revert in terms of, we want to go and actually see the school and get that vibe.
That's great. Thank you very much, Elaine. I want to bring in Todd again, actually, if he's there on this, because I know that whilst we're not currently using this aspect of WeDuck, there is an aspect of your product that is for homework setting.
Yeah, spot on, Mark. When you said you were going to bring me in, I smiled and I thought, I know Mark doesn't use that element of WeDuck, but yeah, we've launched a home learning section inside WeDuck. Purely, it fell completely coincidental with COVID, and we launched it around this time last year. And I'm sure you can guess it's gone down an absolute treat for our schools, because we've seen an absolute massive increase, more than we could ever imagine, with our schools using that feature, setting all of those things in there. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Show My Homework, similar sort of feature inside our system. And again, it's easy for parents to get that engagement now, because you're going to that one place to get that electronic homework. And we've actually called ours home learning because it's wider than just homework now, isn't it? I describe it as a window for parents to go and view what's going on. Even before COVID, it's a great asset to have at any school, for giving that parent and seeing that window into the school and what's going on.
Brilliant. Thank you, Todd. And Colin, I don't know whether you want to share anything on your thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, actually, it's quite interesting. I wanted to say something about the 19% on the electronic homework setting. So that's 1 in 5 people want to go back to kind of a traditional way of setting homework. And I find that really interesting, particularly in my position, where you are trying to evolve the EdTech in schools and trying to show people the benefits of it and reducing their workload along with it. It'd be interesting to see what the motivation behind people want to go back to the way things were. And I think there's been a lot in this pandemic where people have talked about, I don't do computers and my IT skills aren't great, and there's been a lot of upskilling. And it'd be interesting to see, if we said this before the pandemic, if that would have been a much bigger slice and if it's actually reduced. Because if that's the case, then there is still hope, and we can still make a difference with those 1 in 5 people that still want to go back to how things were.
Yeah, thanks very much, Colin. I'd agree with that. I mean, I can't think of anything worse, particularly, than going back to using paper-based planners again, once all the students are back in school, and when you're planning for September, spending all that money on paper-based planners for them to record homework in. But anyway, we will, I'm sure, return to that discussion.